My boyfriend secretly sold videos of me crying, sleeping, and changing, so I systematically destroyed everything he built. Now, shattered and desperate, he's on his knees begging me to help him pick up the pieces of the life he betrayed me with. I genuinely believed my boyfriend loved me until I stumbled upon his online dating tutorials. I met Adam at a friend's birthday dinner, leaving that evening with the impression I'd found someone truly special. The first time we spoke alone, he said, "I don't chase people. I just notice who shows up," and that was the beginning. We dated for over a year. He was attentive, remembering every detail, my favorite song, how I liked my eggs, how I used to smuggle books into church as a child. However, things weren't entirely perfect. There were a few peculiar moments between us that I could never quite shake. Once he remarked, "It's interesting watching you get emotional. You go a little nuts, but only realize you're being crazy when I point it out, then say sorry." He also had this incredibly strange habit of recalling our arguments in precise, technical detail, not emotional nuance. He once noted, "When you cried last week, you paused for exactly 31 seconds before saying anything." I laughed it off, thinking he was just detail-oriented. But then one night, my laptop died, and I needed to borrow his to access my work account. As it unlocked, a folder was open, labeled Client Breakdown. Inside were subfolders, each bearing a woman's name. One of them was mine. I froze, my heart pounding, but I still opened it. Within the folder were videos of me. I didn't watch them. I was too scared and instead just started crying uncontrollably. I vividly remember sitting on that couch weeping, but what I don't remember was seeing a camera recording me. I shut the laptop after I composed myself. I didn't say anything to him that night. I convinced myself it might have been some personal journaling project. But the next morning, when he went for a run, I opened the laptop again. This time, I searched for the folder name in Chrome, which led me to a password-protected website. I found the password he had saved in his computer's sticky notes. It was a paid, members-only site. Behind the paywall were dozens of videos. This time, I watched them, and I regret it more than anything. It turned out he'd recorded me while I was asleep, during intimate moments, and while I was venting. One clip was titled, "How to Establish Control, Withhold Affection During Trigger Window." I shut everything down, deleted the search history, and left his place. I didn't confront him right away. I needed to breathe and think. When I did confront him the next day, he barely reacted. He looked at me as if I were overreacting and said, "You said you wanted someone who understood you." I just took it seriously. The next day, my life imploded. He emailed several of the worst videos to my family and close friends. One was of me undressing. One was of me crying after a call with my mom. One was of me talking about how I wasn't a believer. My mother texted, "You're disgusting. Never contact me again." My brother wrote, "We told you he was dangerous. You brought this on yourself." My boss forwarded a video to our. They asked for a meeting. They weren't sure if I was safe to have in the office, especially because Adam had framed it as if I'd willingly recorded and shared this. My entire life shut down in under 48 hours. I tried to do damage control. I messaged my mom, but she didn't answer. I emailed my sister. She never responded. I even called my cousin, who said, "You made your choices. We're choosing distance." I spiraled. I cried until I was sick. Emily stayed with me for 2 nights and told me we had to stop him. And luckily for us, there was a way, because before deleting the search history, when I originally logged onto the site, I wrote down the URL in my notes, as well as the passcode, meaning I could access it at any time. Emily helped me collect every video, and we started trying to identify the other women and the other girls he had been with. Most faces were blurred or angled away, but I recognized one. Her name was Claire. Adam and I had run into her a few months prior at her job. He told me she was his high school ex, so I contacted the store and got her information. I told her everything, and she asked if there was a plan to take him down. We talked for 2 hours. Then she said she knew of 2 other Yexies of Adam's, so another girl joined the chat, then another. By the end of the week, we had 5 women, all with their own stories of emotional abuse and secret surveillance. Claire had proof he filmed her sleeping. Another girl had a voicemail from him admitting he'd accidentally recorded something sensitive and asking her to be cool about it. We took everything to a lawyer. He said we had grounds not just for emotional distress but for illegal surveillance. and distribution of intimate media without consent. We filed. Afterward, Adam tried to reach out. He said we were slandering him. He threatened to sue us back. He told one of the other girls he had fans who would defend him. None of it mattered. We had the law on our side. The judge didn't let the videos be played in court, but he reviewed them. And when it was over, he ordered all content be removed. The site was shut down, and the hosting account blacklisted. After the hearing, my cousin texted me. She said, "I'm sorry everyone reacted how they did. If you ever need anything, I'm here." I said, "Thank you." That was all. I never heard from the others again, except for Claire. She messaged me a month later with a screenshot. His old domain now belonged to a wedding invitation company. I thought everything was finally over, but then I received a random message from someone I didn't know who had paid to see me cry. The message showed one simple thing. It turns out Adam never deleted anything. I stared at my phone for what felt like hours. The message was from some random account with just a string of numbers for a username. They described a specific video of me having a breakdown after a fight with Adam, a video I thought was gone forever. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped my phone twice trying to call Emily. The screen cracked on the second fall, a jagged line splitting across the message like a warning. She came over right away. We sat on my couch while I showed her the message. The afternoon light filtered through my thin curtains, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. Emily suggested we create a fake account to try to find out more. I was hesitant at first, but what choice did I have? I needed to know how bad this was. So we made up a name, Just in Time 94, and responded to the creep who messaged me. Each keystroke felt like I was opening a door I'd tried desperately to keep closed. The guy sent back a link to a new site, different name, different layout, but the same content. Adam had just moved everything. The site even had a relaunch special with discounted membership fees. I felt sick looking at the preview thumbnails. There I was, sleeping, crying, changing clothes. All the moments I thought were private. My stomach turned as I recognized the pale blue walls of my old bedroom, the floral comforter my grandmother had given me for Christmas 3 years ago. Emily took screenshots of everything while I paced around my apartment. I couldn't sit still. The wooden floor creaked beneath my feet as I moved from window to window, pulling the curtains tighter. I kept thinking about all those strangers watching me at my most vulnerable moments, and my family still wouldn't talk to me. My mom still thought I made those videos willingly. The last time I'd called her, she'd hung up before I could even explain. We contacted Claire immediately. She was furious. Her voice cracked over the phone, a mixture of rage and renewed trauma. She called the other women from our group, and within an hour, we had a video chat going with all 5 of us. One of the girls, Marilyn, was a computer science major. Her dark-rimmed glasses reflected the glow of multiple monitors as she typed furiously. She figured out the new site was registered just 2 weeks after the court order. Adam hadn't even waited a month before starting up again. Marilyn dug deeper and found something even worse. Adam was now offering personalized packages where members could request specific types of videos. There was even a section called Special Requests that was password protected. None of us wanted to imagine what that might contain. The thought made my skin crawl, like invisible insects marching across my body. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept checking my locks and windows, paranoid that Adam might have hidden cameras in my new apartment. 2. I'd moved after everything happened, but what if he'd followed me? What if he was still recording? I checked every outlet, light fixture, and air vent in my place. Found nothing, but still couldn't relax. Every shadow seemed to hide a lens. Every unexpected sound made me flinch. I sat in the bathtub with the shower running for an hour, the only place I felt somewhat hidden. The next morning, I called the lawyer who had helped us before. He sounded tired when I explained everything, the weariness in his voice matching the dark circles under my eyes. He said we could file for contempt of court, but it might take weeks to get a hearing. And even then, Adam could just claim he didn't know about the order or find some other loophole. The lawyer suggested filing a police report too, but warned me that these cases were often low priority. The system moves slowly, he said, the resignation in his voice making my heart sink further. I felt completely helpless. The system that was supposed to protect me was moving too slowly. Meanwhile, Adam was out there making money off my trauma. I couldn't wait for the legal process to catch up. I needed to do something now. I stared at the coffee growing cold in my mug, watching the thin film form on its surface like the numbness spreading through my body. That's when Claire suggested something different. What if we infiltrate his site? Get evidence of exactly what he's doing and who he's doing it with. It was risky, but it made sense. We needed concrete proof that Adam was knowingly violating the court order. Claire's usually soft voice had an edge to it now, hardened by months of fighting a system that seemed designed to protect people like Adam. So we came up with a plan. Marilyn would create a convincing fake profile. We'd pose as a potential business partner interested in Adam's methods. We'd record everything, gather evidence, and then bring it all to the authorities at once, too much for Adam to deny or explain away. The idea of voluntarily diving back into Adam's world made me nauseous, but the alternative, doing nothing, was worse. I was terrified, but determined. This man had already taken so much from me: my privacy, my relationship with my family, my sense of security. I wasn't going to let him keep profiting from my pain. I wasn't going to let him do this to anyone else. The memory of my mother's voice, cold and disbelieving, strengthened my resolve. No one forced you to make those videos, she'd said. If only she knew the truth. We spent the next few days setting up our trap. Marilyn created an elaborate digital footprint for our fake persona, social media accounts, a basic website, everything needed to look legitimate. She worked tirelessly, her apartment transformed into a command center with empty energy drink cans and takeout containers piling up. Claire helped craft messages that would appeal to Adam's ego. Emily stayed with me for emotional support, sleeping on my couch and waking whenever I did, which was often. The whole time I kept thinking about how I'd missed all the warning signs with Adam, the way he studied me, the detailed observations, the emotional manipulation. I'd mistaken calculation for care. I wouldn't make that mistake again. I remembered how he'd comment on my expressions, noting how my left eyebrow twitched when I was upset, how my voice changed pitch when I was hiding something. What I'd thought was attentiveness had been research. Our fake persona was named Tyler Reed, a self-proclaimed relationship coach looking to expand his business. We gave Tyler a backstory about helping men understand female psychology. It made me sick typing those words, but we needed to speak Adam's language. Marilyn set up a basic website with stock photos and generic advice articles. She even created fake testimonials from satisfied clients. We spend hours selecting the right profile picture, a man attractive enough to seem successful but not so perfect as to raise suspicion. We settled on a stock photo of a man with a confident smile and slightly graying temples. 3 days later, we were ready. I sat with Emily and Claire in my living room while Marilyn sent the first message to Adam through his site's contact form. The tension was palpable. Emily kept cracking her knuckles, a nervous habit she'd had since college. We kept it vague, but intriguing, mentioning that we admired his analytical approach and wanted to discuss a mutually beneficial partnership. Then we waited, the ticking of my wall clock suddenly deafening in the silence. Adam responded within hours. He was cautious but interested. He asked for more details about Tyler's business. We sent back a carefully crafted email with just enough information to seem legitimate but vague enough to make him curious. We included a link to the fake website. I recognized his writing style immediately, the measured tone, the strategic questions. It was the same approach he'd used when first talking to me, building trust before the betrayal. The next day, Adam suggested a video call. This was tricky. We couldn't show our faces, obviously. Marilyn came up with a solution. She set up a call to show only a static image of Tyler while claiming camera issues. She'd handle the voice part, using a voice modulator app. We practiced for hours, getting the tone right. Marilyn adjusted the settings repeatedly, finding the perfect balance between masculine and natural sounding. The call was scheduled for 8:00 p.m. We all gathered at Marilyn's apartment, huddled around her laptop but staying out of camera range. The room smelled of nervous sweat and the pizza we barely touched. My heart was pounding so hard I thought Adam might hear it through the screen. Marilyn answered the call, apologized for the camera issues, and started talking as Tyler. Adam appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like a home office. Seeing his face again made my stomach turn. He looked exactly the same, calm, collected, slightly amused, like none of this was a big deal, like he hadn't destroyed multiple lives. His familiar blue eyes scanned the screen, the same eyes I'd once thought looked at me with love. Now they just seemed cold and calculating. The conversation started with small talk. Adam was careful, asking questions about Tyler's background and business model. Marilyn handled it perfectly, giving just enough details to seem legitimate while steering the conversation toward Adam's work. She complimented his website organization and content categorization. I watched Adam's expression soften at the praise. His ego clearly flattered. That's when Adam started opening up. He explained his system for capturing authentic emotional responses. He talked about hidden cameras, strategic arguments, and emotional manipulation techniques, all while smiling like he was discussing a normal business strategy. I had to mute myself to avoid screaming at the screen. Claire gripped my hand so tightly it hurt, her nails digging into my palm. Adam mentioned he'd had legal issues with some subjects but had found ways around court orders. He bragged about using different hosting services and payment processors to stay under the radar. Every word he said was another nail in his coffin. Marilyn was recording everything, her expression grim but satisfied as Adam incriminated himself further with each sentence. The call lasted almost an hour. By the end, Adam seemed genuinely interested in collaborating. He even offered to show Tyler some premium content as a gesture of good faith. We thanked him and arranged another call for the following week. His eagerness to share his work was disturbing. He clearly saw nothing wrong with what he was doing. As soon as we hung up, I ran to the bathroom and threw up. Hearing him talk so casually about violating us was too much. The sour taste of bile burned my throat as Emily held my hair back while Claire paced angrily around the apartment, muttering curses under her breath. Marilyn was already backing up the recording to multiple devices, her fingers flying across the keyboard with practiced precision. We weren't done yet though. We needed more concrete evidence of Adam knowingly violating the court order. The next day, Marilyn created a secure login for Tyler on Adam's site. Adam had given us premium access to show off his content library. It was worse than I imagined. The interface was sleek and professional, making the violation feel even more calculated. The videos were organized by categories like vulnerability triggers, emotional breakdown patterns, and intimacy exploitation. Each woman had her own section with detailed notes and timestamps. My section was one of the largest. I couldn't bring myself to watch any of it. Just seeing the thumbnail images me in my old apartment, often with tears streaming down my face, was enough to make me feel violated all over again. Claire found a folder labeled Legal Workarounds in the members-only forum. Inside were posts from Adam explaining how he'd rebranded after the court case. He specifically mentioned the judge's name and the order to shut down. He even joked about it, saying the judge didn't specify he couldn't start a new site. This was exactly what we needed. Claire's hands trembled as she took screenshots, her normally calm demeanor cracking under the weight of what we were uncovering. We spent the next few days gathering and organizing evidence, screenshots, recordings, membership details, payment information. We documented everything meticulously, creating backups of backups. Meanwhile, Marilyn kept communicating with Adam as Tyler, building his trust and getting him to reveal more details. Each interaction was carefully planned, designed to extract maximum information while maintaining our cover. During our second video call, Adam invited Tyler to an exclusive webinar he was hosting for premium members. The topic: evading legal consequences in content creation. It was like he was begging to get caught. We immediately signed up, exchanging shocked glances at his brazenness. The webinar cost $200 to attend, a small price to pay for the evidence we'd collect. The webinar was scheduled for the following Tuesday. 20 premium members attended, including our fake Tyler account. Adam spent 2 hours explaining exactly how he'd circumvented the court order, moved his content to new servers, and continued profiting from videos he was legally ordered to destroy. He spoke with the confidence of a professor giving a lecture, occasionally pausing to answer questions from his audience of predators. He even showed a spreadsheet of his earnings since relaunching, over $40,000 in just 3 months. He bragged about how the women who sued him had moved on and weren't monitoring his activities anymore. I wanted to reach through the screen and strangle him. The casual way he dismissed our trauma, reducing it to a temporary inconvenience in his business model, made my blood boil. Emily had to physically hold me back from shouting at the screen. The most disturbing part came at the end. Adam announced he was planning to expand his operation. He wanted to recruit other men to contribute content, creating a network of sites sharing similar videos. He called it emotional research for the modern man. I called it organized abuse. He outlined a revenue-sharing model and mentioned he was already in talks with 3 potential contributors. The thought of Adam's methods spreading like a virus made me physically ill. After the webinar, we had everything we needed: clear evidence of Adam knowingly violating the court order, continuing to profit from illegal content, and planning to expand his operation. We compiled it all into a comprehensive file and sent it to our lawyer. The file was massive, over 2 gigabytes of damning evidence. Our lawyer called it the most thoroughly documented case of contempt he'd ever seen. The lawyer was impressed with our evidence but still cautious about how long legal proceedings might take. That's when I received a Venmo request that changed everything. It was from Adam for $500, with a note: monthly silence fee. Payer everyone sees more. The notification popped up while we were all together. The cheerful Venmo sound, a jarring contrast to the threat it contained. He was blackmailing me now. I showed the others. Emily was furious, her face flushing red as she paced the room. Claire was terrified it might happen to her next, her eyes darting to her own phone as if expecting a similar demand. Marilyn was oddly quiet, typing furiously on her laptop. After a few minutes, she looked up with a determined expression, her glasses sliding down her nose. "The legal system is too slow," she said, "but there are other ways to shut him down." She explained that with Adam's payment information from the Venmo request, she could trace his other financial accounts. She found his PayPal, Stripe, and even his bank's online portal. The blue light of her screen reflected in her glasses as she showed us what she'd discovered. We debated what to do next. Going back to court would take months. Meanwhile, Adam would keep profiting and possibly expand his network. We needed to hit him where it hurt immediately: his reputation and income. The 4 of us sat in a circle, voices hushed, despite being alone in my apartment, weighing our options like generals, planning a counterattack. That's when Claire suggested something bold. What if we turned the tables, used his own tactics against him? We had recordings of him admitting to everything. What if those recordings found their way to people in his life? Her normally gentle eyes had hardened, the months of trauma and frustration crystallizing into resolve. I was hesitant at first. It felt like stooping to his level. But then I thought about all the women he'd hurt, all the women he was planning to hurt in the future. Sometimes fighting fire with fire is the only option when the house is already burning down. I remembered how he'd shown no mercy when sending those videos to my family, how he'd deliberately chosen the most humiliating moments to share. We spent the next day identifying key people in Adam's life: his employer, a marketing firm where he worked as a behavioral analyst, his landlord, his family members, his new girlfriend. Yes, he already had one. We found them all through social media and public records. Marilyn's research skills were impressive. Within hours, she had email addresses, phone numbers, and even home addresses for everyone in Adam's inner circle. Marilyn created a secure email account that couldn't be traced back to any of us. We carefully edited the webinar recording to include only the parts where Adam explicitly admitted to violating the court order and continuing to profit from illegal videos. We made sure no victims were identifiable. The editing took hours, each of us taking turns to review the footage, ensuring it was damning but ethical. We also included screenshots of his earnings spreadsheet and the legal workarounds forum posts. Everything was clear, concise, and damning. We wrote a simple email explaining that Adam was running an illegal site selling non-consensual intimate videos despite a court order prohibiting it. We avoided emotional language, sticking to facts that could be verified independently. I hesitated before hitting send. This would destroy his life. But then I remembered how he'd destroyed mine, without a second thought. How he'd sent those videos to my family and employer. How he'd turned my most vulnerable moments into entertainment. How he was still doing it. My finger hovered over the mouse button for a full minute before I finally clicked, sending our evidence into the world. The response was immediate. Within hours, Adam's girlfriend messaged the anonymous email, thanking us for the warning. She said she'd already noticed controlling behaviors and had been considering breaking up with him. Our evidence gave her the push she needed to leave immediately. She even offered to provide a statement if we needed one for legal proceedings. His boss responded next, a curt message saying they were investigating the allegations but appreciated the information. By the next morning, Adam's company profile had been removed from their website. A quick call to their reception desk, with Emily posing as a potential client asking for Adam, confirmed he was no longer with the company. We monitored social media and saw Adam's mother post a vague but telling status, heartbroken by betrayal. From those you thought you raised right, his friends started unfollowing him one by one. His cousin, who I remembered meeting once at a barbecue, posted about being disgusted to share DNA with a predator. The ripple effect was spreading faster than we'd anticipated. 3 days after sending the emails, Marilyn discovered Adam's premium site was down, not just temporarily. The entire domain had been deactivated. The payment processor accounts were closed too. He'd lost his income stream overnight. When we checked the backup domains he'd mentioned in the webinar, they were gone too. It was as if his digital empire had been wiped from existence. I should have felt victorious, but mostly, I felt exhausted. This had consumed my life for weeks. I just wanted it to be over. I wanted to rebuild what I could of my life and move forward. The dark circles under my eyes had deepened, and I'd lost weight, my clothes hanging loose on my frame. The constant vigilance had taken its toll on all of us. That's when Adam called me. After months of no contact, his name suddenly appeared on my phone screen. My hands shook as I debated whether to answer. The others were watching me anxiously, Emily mouthing speaker as I nodded. I put the phone on speaker and answered without saying anything. The silence stretched for several seconds before he spoke. Adam sounded desperate. His voice, once so confident and controlled, now cracked with emotion. He asked if I was behind the emails. I didn't confirm or deny anything. He said he'd lost everything. His job, his apartment, his girlfriend. His voice cracked when he mentioned his parents had told him not to come home for Christmas. For a moment, just a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Then I remembered the countless nights I'd spent terrified in my own home. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and pity. I remembered feeling that same desperation when he'd sent those videos to my family, when my mother had disowned me, when my boss had questioned my character. I knew exactly how it felt to have your life collapse around you. The memory of my mother's voice, cold and dismissive, echoed in my mind. But unlike Adam, I hadn't deserved it. I told him I knew about the new site, about the Venmo request, about the webinar where he bragged about evading the court order. I told him I had everything, documented and backed up in multiple locations. I told him if he ever tried to contact me or any of the other women again, if he ever tried to restart his site or share those videos, everything would get much worse for him. My voice was steady, stronger than I'd felt in months. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked what I wanted from him. It was such a telling question, still thinking in terms of transactions and leverage. I told him I wanted nothing, except for him to disappear from my life completely. The others nodded in approval, Claire giving me a thumbs up as tears streamed silently down her face. Before hanging up, I asked one question that had been bothering me. Why? Why had he done all this? His answer was disturbing in its simplicity. He said he'd always been fascinated by emotional patterns, but people were hard to study up close. Recording allowed him to review and analyze. The site came later when he realized other men would pay for his research. There was no remorse in his voice, just a clinical detachment that sent chills down my spine. I ended the call and blocked his number. The others looked at me with a mixture of concern and relief. It wasn't a perfect ending. My family still wasn't speaking to me. Those videos might still exist somewhere, but Adam's operation was shut down. His reputation was destroyed. His ability to hurt more women was severely limited. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. That night, I slept without checking my locks for the first time in months. I wasn't naive enough to think it was completely over. People like Adam don't change overnight, but the power balance had shifted. He knew we were watching. He knew he would act if he stepped out of line again. I fell asleep to the sound of rain against my window, no longer hearing threats in every drop. A week later, I received an unexpected text from my cousin, Kathleen. She asked if we could meet for coffee. I was nervous but agreed. When we met, she seemed uncomfortable at first, fidgeting with her cup, the spoon clinking nervously against the ceramic. Then she showed me her phone. She'd received an anonymous email too, not about Adam, but containing the full context of what had happened to me. Her eyes, so similar to my mother's, were filled with tears as she reached across the table to take my hand. It was a small step, but maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of healing.